Hello and welcome everybody. Yesterday, Returnal finally dropped for PC players. Of course, I checked out some reviews and gameplay videos for myself before I bought it. And I was kinda skeptical if this was really up my alley. A lot described the gameplay to be a very fast-paced, Doom-like bullet hell experience, where I prefer a more methodical and slower-paced approach. But after picking it up, I played 6.5 hours straight, and I have to say, this game is definitely exactly my cup of tea and also much closer to a game like Remnant from the Ashes, which I absolutely love, than something like Doom. If I should describe this game with 2 words, I would say slick and tight. And if you like shooter games, especially third-person ones, then I highly recommend this game to you. And here are 10 reasons why this is a great game. Number 1, PC port. Starting off with the technical side. This is no half-baked PC port, but rather a prime example how to do it. Mouse and keyboard controls are super tight and make for a razor-sharp shooter experience. Controller is possible if you prefer that. Aim assist can be toggled in 3 grades, and in general every button can be remapped to your liking. More on that later. Menu, inventory and map navigation is also as if it was made for PC. No console port clunkiness to find here. The game is running on an RX 6700 XT native on 1440p with everything on epic except shadows and volumetric fog on high at 60 frames per second, and with shadows turned to normal, which hardly made any visual difference, at 75 FPS for extended sessions. I did encounter some microstutters, but these were minor and very rare. Overall, an excellent PC port. Well done. Number 2, music and sound design. In terms of underlying score, battle or eerie background music, this game is superb. The sound design for the weapons is also fantastic, and the positional audio in this game is one of the best I ever experienced. Again, a lot reminded me of Remnant, where you could hear the moaning and scratching of monsters before you triggered them and knew exactly where they are positioned. Same for Returnal. If enemies leave your direct line of sight and change position on the map, you always know exactly where to look for them. If something teleports or sneaks up behind you, you can instinctively dodge without looking because you know something is there. And much like the visuals, the whole sound design of this game is such an integral aspect of elevating this game into a top experience. This brings us smoothly to my next point, visuals. The video material you see, digested and transformed by YouTube, does not do this game justice. And like the sound design, the whole visual experience is well thought out and executed. Apart from simply looking stunning and having a fantastic overall art design, there are a lot of smaller things that add up. Like for example, being procedural generated but not feeling too samey, and how they utilized the color palette to point out loot without looking disruptive. How enemies blend in but are still clear to make out, and every zone alters the whole feeling of the biome without ever losing its distinctive and underlying art style. Just brilliant. Within the first few minutes I felt so captivated by this world and the whole atmosphere they created with their visual approach and sound design. Number 4, Gunplay. But enough of gushing about the beautiful surface. What about the meat of the game? How does it play? Well, the gunplay is top tier. No wobbly or unprecise moments to find here. Everything feels snappy and tight. The abundance of a reload mechanic is something I did not know I wanted before playing this game. The weapons are energy based and recharge or need to cool down, but you can't manually reload or cool your weapons. And this system works very smooth for this game. It also frees one button on your mouse, more on that later. Which leads us to another aspect in the gun department. Gun design and gun variety. I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. Of course you have your basic archetypes like a handgun, a shotgun and so on, but there are also some exotic designs, like a gun that fires hard-hitting small harpoons that generate an energy tether between them. At first glance I thought, oh, that's much too slow, but man, I was wrong. It was so easy to pin 2 harpoons into an enemy, fall back and just watch them die, that it turned out to be one of my favorite guns. There are also randomly selected, very powerful secondary fire modes attached to the guns, like grenades or your Dark Sith Lord's favorite Force Lightning. And these secondary modes hit like a truck, a very satisfying experience. The next section I labeled accessibility, because this whole package fits like a glove. I picked up the game, mapped nearly all combat actions to my mouse and started off. Usually I need a warm-up phase to find the right approach for a game or get accustomed to mechanics, but here, nothing of that. Everything clicked immediately, everything felt natural, and from the very first steps I felt right at home. I never had such a smooth transition into a new game. And the combat tools are not too convoluted. If you own a gaming mouse with 6 or more remappable buttons, you can slap everything you need on your mouse. You have no reload button to worry about, and I mapped the dash, which is also your dodge, sprint, melee, alternate fire mode and interaction functions, and 2 consumables on my Logitech G502. The aim assist can also be toggled in 3 grades. Number 7. Difficulty. A lot of people describe the game as very difficult and you do not have a general difficulty setting. But I found the overall experience to be slightly easier than my first Remnant from the Ashes playthrough. The final boss of the first area took me 3 tries and I'm by no means a very good player. After the tutorial and a first death, I already cleared the whole first sector and had the boss in its final phase. After that I had 2 runs with stupid mistakes on my side, one time entering a challenge area not knowing that it was one, and another time jumping to the boss very early by accident. After that I had another thorough run and was able to beat the first boss. All encounters are decently paced and enemy density is not as high as I feared it would be. There is definitely room enough for some methodical and practical approaches, and you always have a grasp of the situation as a whole. Number 8. Progression. Another reason why difficulty is not as harsh as I feared it would be are the excellent progression systems. You have 2 layers here. The progression during a run and an overall progression that is permanent. Both are executed perfectly for this game. The exploration and hunt for upgrades during a run is a very big part of your gameplay. I found myself exploring stuff much more than fighting monsters, so the pace of the game is not dictated by just shooting stuff. The exploration is also very rewarding, unlocking powerful tools and backups for the next big boss fight. The system with upgrades that enhance but also impair some of your functions is also done very well. You will make a lot of meaningful risk versus reward choices during a run and scratch your head more than one time if you should spend your precious permanent currency on some fancy stuff for your run or not. The permanent upgrades also make every following run easier and unlock previously inaccessible areas, granting you more consumable slots and so on. Despite being a roguelike game, there is an overall game progression that feels rewarding and meaningful, adding a lot of replayability value to the game. Number 9. Enemy design. Enemy design in this game is another positive aspect. Your first encounters will give you some the day after tomorrow vibes, and the alien monster design is very cool. Boss and elite enemy design is also challenging but fair. These encounters feel a lot like their counterpart in Remnant from the Ashes. As I already mentioned, these 2 games have a very similar vibe, although they are paced differently. Elite monsters will always drop weapons and they can be very challenging, especially when they occur in tight spaces. Some enemies work as a pack and try to swarm you, others will try to bombard you from afar, always keeping you on your toes. You have to adapt and change your tactics on the fly. Number 10. Environmental design. The environmental design is another cool game feature. I stumbled into my first hidden wall by pure accident, but if you look closely you can make out some subtle hints. Everything blends perfectly into the environment, but there are these hidden walls, grass that reacts to your presence, destructible objects that sometimes hide enemies or teleporters, and observing eyes that you can blind temporarily with an aimed shot. This not only elevates the already awesome world design, but also keeps you curious and always checking out everything without placing tons of disruptive markers all over the screen. And the map, by the way, is one of the best I have ever seen in such a game. Overall, I can only say you miss out if you not try this game. For me, it's a clear 9 out of 10. And if you excuse me, I will head right back into my last session, which you can save and pick up where you left, so no need to finish every run without a pause. What do you think about this game? Let us know in the comments. For now, that's all about Returnal. Take good care of yourself and enjoy your gaming sessions.